Hello everyone, welcome to this session. In this particular video, we will try and talk about IAM permissions from the perspective of a developer and probably a cloud engineer who is working with the developer. So let's take a scenario that we are working on an application development. This application is probably hosted on cloud. It could be, probably this application could be hosted on either, let's say, an EC2 instance, or it could be in an in a container, probably on ECS, let's say, or maybe this logic is written in a lambda function. So the compute model could differ, right? So it could be any one of these three, let's say, right? Now, normally what happens, many of the times the developers do not get into the details of IAM permissions. Ideally they should, right? So that's where this particular topic is important, that how should developers try to understand, right? How should developers understand the whole IAM permission thing? So let's take a scenario. Let's say the our application which we have created, let's consider that our application is running here, you know so and our this particular application, it interacts with different AWS services. And when I say it interacts with different AWS services, it means it is making use of certain AWS API calls, right? So probably let's try to write it down, what all it does. So this particular application does a file upload and download on an S3 bucket or to an S3 bucket, right? So I would say S3 upload and download. Next one could be, let's say it also interacts with probably DynamoDB. So what would it do? Probably it would insert an item, right? So insert data or insert item, and probably retrieve the item as well, or get item, right? On the same lines, think of something else. Probably it also interacts with systems manager parameter store. So SSM parameter store. And what sort of action it does? It probably reads the value of a particular parameter, right? So reads a parameter. Okay. So here we have clearly identified that our application actually does these type of actions. So we are essentially dealing with three different services here: S3, DynamoDB, and parameter store. So three different services. And within that, when you look at the actions in S3, it is doing two actions: upload and download of an object. In DynamoDB, it is insert and get items. So again, two actions. And in SSM parameter store, it is just reading a parameter. So totally, if you look at it, 2 plus 2 plus 1, totally 5 actions are being called here, right? All right. So now, with having this information clear, how can it help the developer and then even the cloud engineer to go ahead and define the permission? Now, what I want to clarify here before moving ahead is, depending on the way your organization or your teams are currently structured, or depending on the maturity of your deployment practices, it may happen that the necessary IAM permissions would be written by a cloud engineer, or it could be written by the developer themselves, right? It's not necessary. There is no fixed rule. It really depends how your teams are structured. In many of the teams or organizations, the developers will go ahead and they will write the necessary the necessary cloud formation code. They'll go ahead and write the necessary IAM permissions as well on their own. Whereas in some other teams, the developers won't do it. They'll explain it to the cloud engineer, and cloud engineer will go ahead and write it. So overall, it is important to understand the structure of this thing and the granularity of each and every action which we have listed here. So let's try and understand that how this information which we have written here, which we have written just now, how this information translates to the required IAM permissions. Okay, or we can say how will we go ahead and actually write an IAM policy which fulfills or which allows our application to go ahead and do these actions, right? So let's try and understand this. First of all, you should clearly understand that in an IAM policy there are three parts, right, which you probably know. So what are those three parts? So first one is your effect, whether you want to allow or deny something, right? The second thing is action. So what sort of action you want to allow or deny. For example, s3 dot put object. So s3 dot put object, basically put object is an action with which you will allow or you will actually facilitate that a particular file or a particular object can be uploaded to an s3 bucket, right? So that could be an action. And the third and very important thing is resource. You also need to specify that when you are allowing a particular action, on which resource you are allowing it. For example, if let's say I want to allow s3 put object, I want to allow that an object can be uploaded to an s3 bucket. So the question comes that to which s3 bucket, right? Is it to all the s3 buckets in your account? Probably no, right? You would have probably created an s3 bucket for your application and you want to give permission only to that s3 bucket. So it becomes important to specify the resource part as well, right? So we will go ahead and write the, let's say, the name of the s3 bucket. So I'll just say as an example, let's say I'll call it bucket 001. Okay, so let's say that's the bucket name. So on bucket 001, I want to go ahead and give s3 put object. Just for this example, let's take this. So we understood three parts, that there are three parts in an IAM policy. Okay, so with that understanding that there are three parts always in an IAM policy: effect, action, and resource. Now, in this case, it is quite easy to understand that whatever we have written here, on the right hand side, you can see whatever we have written here, these five actions. So for these five actions, we should be able to go ahead and write IAM policy. So for every action, we need to identify all these three things: effect, action, and resource. So how do we go ahead? How do we go ahead and actually do this? Let's try to go ahead and write this policy and understand this. All right, so I've logged in to one of my AWS accounts here. So we'll go to policies and we'll click on create policy. And here we will go ahead and try to add the necessary actions for the first service. The first service which we discussed was S3. So let us go ahead and select S3. And in this case, like, I know that the actions are put object and get object. In case you are not aware, you can go ahead and actually search for it, for the exact action name. In case you are not aware, it is easy. You can just go ahead and easily search it. So put object, you can also verify here. If you click on this, it says grants permission to add an object to a bucket, right? In the same way, I will go ahead and write get object. Okay, so two actions are selected. On the right hand side, you can see effect is allow. Next thing is resources. So we have selected effect, we have selected actions, and in resource, we'll not go ahead and just say all, right? We'll select a specific bucket. So I'll go to objects part and say add ARNs, and here I'll go ahead and actually specify the bucket name. So let's say bucket 001, and inside that bucket, I want to actually give permission for all the objects. So basically any object inside that bucket, the permission will be granted. So I'll go ahead and apply a wildcard. So you can see this ARN which got generated. It says bucket 001 slash star. So basically with this wildcard, we are saying that get object and put object permissions would be granted on all the objects inside this particular bucket. So I'll go ahead and press this button and our first permission is done, right? Let's go ahead and add the other two as well. The other one was DynamoDB, insert item and get item, right? So let us go ahead and search for DynamoDB. And in DynamoDB, we can, in the same manner, put item and get item. So let's say these two permissions we are giving, or these two actions we are allowing, these two actions we are allowing, and on which table. So we can go ahead and give the table name. So let's say, that this particular table name is something, let's call it tab 001, and it is there in, let's say, US East 1 region, So put that, and with that, you will have your ARN generated, right? So I'll go ahead and say add ARN. So that is done. Our second permission is done. Let's just do the last one. The last one was SSM parameter store reads a parameter, right? So let's say we'll go here and we will just look for systems manager. In systems manager, we have to look for this particular action, get parameter. You can look for the info, grants permission to view information about a specified parameter. So from the SSM parameter store or systems manager parameter store, if we want to read the value of a particular parameter, then we go ahead and select this. So we'll do this, and then we have to specify the exact parameter on which we want to give the permission. So I'll go ahead and say add ARN. Again, let's specify the region, because of course our resource exists in a particular region. That's why we are doing this. And it is also important to understand that for these resources like parameter store and DynamoDB, the ARN which gets generated actually has the region ID in it, whereas the ARN which gets generated for S3, you do not have the region ID in it, right? That's why region ID was not asked as well. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and give our parameter name. Let's say we are calling it param01. So we'll go ahead and just do this. So with this, we have added, like totally 5 actions, 2, 2, 1, 5 actions are added across 3 different services. We'll go ahead and say next. When we do this, it will go ahead and actually generate the policy for me. So here you can see it in this manner. You can go ahead and just say create policy. So this particular policy is created. We can just go on view. We can look at the JSON format. So here you can see that this is written. So while writing, it has just gone ahead and actually combined these two things, which, if you ask me, I would not say that I would say that this is not the right way. Ideally, I would actually group it in 2 different things. Like for S3 get object and put object, I will keep in one place and I'll specify the resource as this bucket, and then I'll write other block in which I will give DynamoDB related 2 actions, and I will go ahead and actually specify the DynamoDB resource. So that would be a cleaner way of writing, though even by writing it in this way, you are not granting any additional permission. So this is not weak in any sense, but in terms of writing clearly, this is not that clearly written. So this is auto-generated, but of course you can go ahead and write on your own, right? In every policy or within your policy, every permission block just looks like this, right? This SID thing which is there, you can go ahead and delete this as well. It won't be a problem. Like you can just press edit, and if you want, You can delete this ID part and it will be okay. It won't cause any troubles as such, right? So we can go ahead and save this. Yep. So that's how it looks. So if you want, you can go ahead and change this as well. All right. So with that, what we understood essentially is that how you should go ahead and actually look at the actual actions which your application calls. Do not go ahead and just specify S3 full access or DynamoDB full access, right? Don't do those things, because whenever you go ahead and use any of the existing policies, right, you will end up giving a lot more permissions than actually required. So you should really discuss with the developers, or developers, you should really understand that what actions you are actually calling as part of your application. Then look at the related IAM action and go ahead and develop your permission in this manner. Later on, let's say if you want to have a different environment for your application, probably the resources will change. So let's say you go ahead and this is your dev environment. Let's say you go for a test environment. In your test environment, probably your bucket name would be something else, your DynamoDB table name would be something else, and your parameter name might also differ. So if that is the case, go ahead and change these things in the policy for your test environment. Or it could be that in your other environment, these resource names remain the same, just the account number will change. So you can just go ahead and change the account ID. But as far as S3 is involved, the bucket name will surely change, because bucket name is unique, right, across the whole ecosystem. So I hope that gave you some idea. Please let me know if you are able to follow this and you understood that how should you actually approach writing an IAM policy. Please do not go ahead and use star around the actions unnecessarily. You need to really understand that what are those actions which your application is using, and this is what is stressed as part of the principle of least privilege. You should only give that much permission which is really required, nothing more than that. Okay, so I hope that made some sense. We will meet again with another video. If you liked it, go ahead and click the like button, and share it with someone if it is helpful, and let me know what would you like to learn more. Thank you. See you again.